friends, I am the Anti-Terrorist. Thank you for all of your emails and your messages of support, and for staying part of the conversation. After having received an inordinate amount of messages following my dealing with the police broadcast, I'm acutely aware that that subject needs to be expanded upon. Now, I'd like to make it perfectly clear. I'm not broadcasting on this subject to help the career scumbags out there who take great pleasure in causing harm, injury, or loss. I'm recording this for the honest people out there who realize that they're being caught up in an ever-tightening totalitarian net and who wish to understand a little more about what their rights are, before, during, and after arrest, at border patrols in the United States, for instance, and in the airports, and the like. I'm also not broadcasting for the sheeple, who you often hear bleating,
"Well, if you've nothing to hide, then you shouldn't object to a search of your stuff."
I'm broadcasting for those of you who object to warrantless searches of your private property. I'm broadcasting for those of you who are courageous enough to stand up for your rights, and those of you who give a damn about privacy. I'm one of those people. I care about privacy. I have lots to hide, and I have lots that I don't want you to see, and that is my right. That's why I wear clothes. Otherwise, if I had nothing to hide, I'd walk around the street naked, would I not? I also want to make it perfectly clear once more that I'm not against the police, as long as they behave as sworn peace officers, and that they operate under the oath they swore when they joined the police service. A good policeman is a peace officer, and not a law enforcement officer. He's not a zealous social reformer out to save you from yourself. A good policeman doesn't vigorously enforce unreasonable statutes. He doesn't write a ton of needless speeding tickets. His attitude is properly libertarian, and he doesn't bother those who live peaceably. He knows that his authority derives from the people, and he's mindful to be a good steward of that authority. He'll never try to trick you into flimsy consensual searches, or bully you into waiving your rights or offering information about yourself. A good policeman should be actively supported. And if you're not fully aware of the corporate nature of these entities, please go back and review my broadcasts on corporate revenue collection and corporate control. And so, with pseudo-martial law seemingly just around the corner, we still have some time to exercise our rights. So let's take a look at those. There are two golden rules when dealing with the police, especially if you feel like you're being unfairly dealt with. You may wish to revisit my dealing with the police broadcast to get a sense of number one, but I will remind you of it. Number one actually has three parts, 1A, B, and C. 1A is shut up. 1B is keep your mouth shut. Fish are only caught because they open their mouths. Keep yours shut. And 1C is, if you keep your lips pressed together, the silly words won't fall out. Rule number 2 is never consent. Never consent. Ever. Do not consent, especially if you feel you're being unfairly dealt with. Never consent. Period. Remember, they need your consent. They need you to understand. And so invariably, the officer will say, "Do you understand what I'm saying to you?" And your job is to say, "Am I obliged to understand? Am I obliged to seize, grasp, or comprehend what you just said to me?" Never making statements, always asking questions, because the master asks the questions and the servant answers them. If you stand there declaring that these officers work for a corporation and you declare that you're free, then the onus is upon you to prove that. Whereas if you ask the question, "Am I obliged to stand under what you just said? Am I obliged to stand under, to understand, to seize, grasp, or comprehend what you just said?" the onus of proof is upon them. They have to prove that you are obliged to understand, that you are obliged to consent. Do not make statements. Ask questions. Don't stand there foaming at the mouth, demanding that you be free. You are free. You're as free as you think you are. And all the while you're shouting and wailing and gnashing your teeth, you're just proving that you need to be taken care of. You're just proving that you're a belligerent slave, that you're an angry little slave, and you're upset about the slavery that you're suffering under. Start behaving like the master and you'll be treated like one. Ask the right questions. Get them to prove that they have some authority over you. And if you're getting those questions on the record, You could put that officer in a very difficult position if you were to instigate a lien based on his dishonor afterwards, for instance. Show them a little love. Couldn't hurt. In fact, there are a couple of gentlemen on YouTube that I have a tremendous amount of respect for. Charlie and Danny from the C. Veitch channel are a prime example of how to deal with the police, with compassion and understanding, and with a clear head, and always asking the right questions. You can see the police getting quite embarrassed in some instances because they realize that their authority is perhaps being stretched a tad, and they either toe the line or they start behaving like very naughty boys and kidnapping people. His channel, the C. Veitch channel, is certainly one that I would look at if you want to see how to deal with the police in a very compassionate, caring, we're all equal kind of way. So there are three kinds of scenarios between you and the police. There's the contact, encounter, there's the stop or detention, and then there's the arrest or putting you in custody. And the object of this exercise is to teach you how to recognize the progression of lawful restraint and how to nip it in the bud, if you like, before it even gets started. The contact is when any police officer walks up to you and begins a consensual conversation. A consensual conversation.
Nice day, isn't it? Yes, lovely day, lovely day. What are you up to today? Anything special? Just shopping, are you? Excellent, excellent. Yes, just a bit of flat footing, you know how it goes. Just walking around, making sure you're safe. You feeling safe? Job done. Excellent. Well, have a nice day. Have a nice day.
And although this might seem innocent enough, you should always remember that police are never off duty. And they're never off duty because criminals are never off duty. Don't believe he's just being friendly. It's just a fishing expedition. Police officers chat up the public like men chat up women. There's an agenda going on here. That's not to say that there aren't any friendly police officers out there who just like a good chat to pass the time. But you should be aware, he's always on duty, he works for the state, and the state needs revenue. If the police officer is approaching you, he's doing it in his capacity as a caretaker. He's just there to make sure that everything's all right, in the same way that a waitress would come up to you while you're having a meal and asking you if the food is all right. He's just being a caretaker. However, you're not obliged to speak to the poor chap, even if he is just trying to be a friendly soul. Well, thank you for doing your job. I appreciate it, officer. I have to be somewhere else, though. Goodbye. During that first contact, you have the utter right to ignore him and walk away. You're not required to tell him your name, and you're certainly not required to provide ID. Simple as that. The police officer's powers during a contact are nearly zero. If you disengage, there's nothing you can do without the required reasonable articulable suspicion for detention or probable cause for the arrest. He can walk along with you in public for as long as he likes and observe you, though. He can also ask you to take your hands out of your pockets because you could be hiding something that could injure him. So when you're approached by an officer in the first instance, make sure your hands are out of your pockets so that he doesn't have to ask you to remove them. Don't put yourself in a position where you have to follow orders. He has the right to feel safe and be safe. He does have the power during any kind of confrontation with you to frisk you for weapons if he has reasonable belief that you're armed or that you pose a threat to him and the public. Officers who have lost or misplaced their moral fiber somewhere along the way have been known to abuse that particular right. And they will feign feeling unsafe in order to get you to reveal something about yourself or in order to search you. So just watch out for that one. Police officers don't start a conversation unless they're suspicious of something. The policeman's job in this instance is to uncover some sort of probable cause. The police officer needs probable cause in order to detain you. Until he's established probable cause, though, you have every right to walk away. If you feel like you're being manipulated or bullied, show the relevant righteous indignation. Don't just be polite, just tell him, are you operating under the presumption that I am a criminal? Because if you are, I take offense at that, officer. Now, unless you have reasonable articulable suspicion, I am leaving.